Just get your mind together and come on across to me. We'll hold hands and we'll watch the sun rise from the bottom of the sea. But first, are you experienced? Have you ever been experienced? Well, I am. Probably scream and cry that your little world won't let you go. Who in your old measly little world are you trying to prove that you're made out of gold and that it can't be so? I went down to the crossroads, fell down on my knees. I went down to the crossroads, fell down on my knees. I said, can you help me? Can you help me please? I'm looking across the room at the picture that was in the introduction. Now, I don't expect any of you to understand this picture, because this picture is a picture of one of the crossroads, and you don't need to be listening to these videos if you know about that, okay? But there are other crossroads, the crossroads that I sung about with the guitar. That crossroad is the first crossroad on the way. There are a number of crossroads. What a crossroad is a major intersection on the way. And there are tests. All the time there are tests. Every day we have tests. Every hour we have tests. We are tested continuously as we move along the way. And we go through thousands and thousands of tests. Yet every once in a while, a few times on the journey, from the beginning to the end, there are major crossroads. Now, the reason I know about these crossroads is because not only have I been on the crossroads myself, I've manned the crossroads. Okay, so I've been the devil himself, if you like, or the angel himself, whichever way it is, because most people go to the crossroads, they don't get through the crossroads, they fail. And they come back and they said, oh man, I want to tell you, I met the devil himself. And who he met was me, because, and who he met was you, because you have to man the crossroads also. And to man the crossroads, it's better if you know that you're manning the crossroads when you're manning the crossroads, because it's anything that you understand more perfectly, you're going to perform more perfectly in that position. Now, so you can be man the crossroads, or you can be going through the crossroads. Okay. Now, there are stories, many stories in the Bible about the angel disguised as a human, a poor man who hasn't got anything, hasn't got a warm coat, or he has got nothing to eat, or he's got nowhere to stay, he's got nowhere to live. He's just like a visitor, he's travelling the road, he's a pilgrim, right? Because that's when you man the crossroads, that's when you're a pilgrim. And he's the test for all of you lot who are just kind of walking around in the light, you know, you're shining little pieces of God, and will you do the right thing? Yeah, will you do the right thing? And so what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to help this man, this poor man who needs help. You're supposed to help. And if you don't help, you go down. Yeah, you go down. And you go down for a long journey then, until you're presented with the crossroads again. And the crossroads is like this. I told you once, I told you twice, I even tried to tell you nice. That's the first one. Then it's, I told you once, I told you twice, you didn't heed my advice, so this is a much stronger one. I told you once, twice, 3 times, and that's enough. 3 chances, the nice one, the not so nice one, and the out one. Okay, the out one. Now the out one is a very strong one, and it's designed to test whether the high level initiate will follow the will of God and deliver this strong crossroads to the person coming through. And if you just love everybody, love the dark side, love all that stuff, then you're not going to get through the tests of men in the crossroads. You're not going to do it. You might get through the tests of going through the crossroads. You find the little Christ child disguised as some ragged old beggar, and you help them and you give them something. You might go through that test, but you won't get through the test of manning the crossroads when somebody else comes through at a higher level. And I'm not going to go into what that is, because that's, that's part of the test. You have to recognize, you have to always do the right thing at all times, even when you're on the crossroads. Okay. Now, I've told a few people on the way in the last 10 years about the crossroads. Probably 5 or 10 people I've told about what the crossroads is. Nobody's really told the world what the crossroads is. Okay, it's just like a mythological thing. Nobody know. People know about it, but is it real? Yeah, it's real. Every single one of these guys, Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, they all went through the crossroads to get their power. Yeah, they all went through it, and they all passed. Jimi Hendrix would have had some guy come, he couldn't hardly play guitar, he was just sort of like, he was just a nuisance kind of guy, he didn't have any money or nothing. Jimmy would have said, yeah, come in my brother, here, have my guitar, like, let's have a jam, yeah. And Jimmy would have picked up some right-handed guitar or whatever, and Jimmy could play upside down or the right way up. Now I can do that, but not like Jimmy can do it. It's really, you have to realise how difficult that is. It's almost as difficult as singing like Paul McCartney while playing bass guitar. So it's got to be fun, this stuff, and it is fun. Now, there is a final crossroads that you all have to get through, and the final crossroads is what's described in the Greek pantheon of the gods. The Greek pantheon of the gods is a remarkable thing that you only start to learn about at the highest levels of this journey. After all the Egyptian stuff and the Indian stuff and the Chinese stuff, and after all of it comes first, and then the Christian stuff, all comes first, and Taoism and all that stuff. It all comes first. Buddhism, it all comes first before you get to the Greek stuff. The Greek stuff is the highest stuff. And so the Greeks had their crossroad story, which was about the River Styx and the ferryman. And the ferryman, you had to pay the ferryman. You had to have 2 coins for the journey, right? It's a mystery, this. And they had the mystery schools, and so on. Yet the diagram that I gave you gives you a picture of what it all means. Okay, it's actually a real world, it's a real boat, it's a real waters, it's a real mountain, it's a real golden fleece, it's a real golden bow, it's real coins, it's real Tartarus and Hades, it's real, it's all real. The hammer is real, and you need to understand that there's nothing in the Greek stuff that isn't real, except it might have been elaborated on to some extent over the years, but the guts of it is real. The important stuff is real. The reason I know this is because I passed through it over many years. I've done the Jason and the Argonauts journey, and that journey is on my channel, Sarah of North Wales. I only found out that I'd done that journey recently, when this picture came into my life and I started to study Jason and media and so on. And if you look at the journey, you will see I actually run into the rocks. I run into them, just like the Jason and the Argonauts. And these rocks look just like the pictures of the rocks in the picture. I'll put a picture up of what the artist illustrates the rocks have. And I have gotten up in the middle of the night and seen those rocks and been on them. There has to be these events to actually confirm that what you're doing is actually the journey, the mythical journey, the journey to the Golden Fleece and all that. Now, the Jason and the Argonauts journey takes years to complete. Years. And so do the other journeys. You've got to be Ptah and Amun Ra and all that sort of stuff, and all that takes years too to work through it. And so what I'm saying to you is if you're involved, if you're attracted to a certain aspect of the teachings, for example, if you're strong in learning about the Egyptian stuff and that, you be at a certain level on the pathway. And there's many things in the future. You'll go off the Egyptian stuff and into something else. You have to study the Nordic stuff or the Germanic stuff. Yeah. You'd have to study the Crusades, stuff like that. It's necessary to study all of it. All of history, in fact, has to be studied by all the initiates as they go through to the higher levels. Now, I'm telling you this because you can't belong to those terrible universities, the alumni or the Illuminati. You can't be part of that lot. And otherwise they won't tell you anything about this stuff. Nobody will tell you about this stuff. And I had to learn it myself. I didn't learn it from books, I had to learn it by actually walking the walk. And so I tell you from experience. That's why this song is there, I experience. Now, Jimi Hendrix wrote that song. And you could see that Jimi Hendrix knew what he was doing. Jimi Hendrix was experienced. When he played that guitar, stood on stage and sang, he sang from experience, from knowledge gained through understanding. He understood music, he understood the guitar. He didn't copy other people, he understood it. I also don't copy anybody. There's no riff in my what I play that I got from anybody else, except one little thing that I got from Lightning Hopkins. When I got my name Lightning Papa Abraham, that journey that I went on there to get that name, I had to learn one of his riffs and repeat that riff into the world, because that was homage to him. And he created that riff. That was just how he played guitar. That's where it comes from. He didn't learn it from anybody else. He created it. Same as, I suppose, Chuck Berry created some stuff that a lot of other people copied. I'll take 5. Now, you don't just put people through the crossroads once. If they fail, you have to put them through again. And in my experience, this seems to be annually, so they get a whole year to go on the downward pathway. And then you are presented to them again, and normally the second time doesn't last too long, because most of them, they haven't got a clue what's going on, and they're just failing this stuff because there's certain things that they won't do. They're too selfish, okay? So are you going to be selfish? Now, that's often the ones that fail every time. It's really tragic, the ones that pass the first time and then subsequently fail. That's really, they go on a terrible, terrible downward journey, terrible. Because that's really, really bad to get through the crossroads and get given the higher power and then fail the crossroads again. There goes the dog. The dog knows all about it. That's a long one. Goes on and on. Never stops then. I told you the story. Still going on now. I told you the story of the lady who found me in her caravan. And she said, "Get out, what you doing in my caravan? Get the hell out of here." No. I said to her, "I'm a priest. I haven't got any money, I haven't got any food, I haven't got anything." She said, she couldn't help herself because she was good enough for it. She said, "We've always wanted a priest here at Yoke Farm." There were other crossroads she had to go through. And she didn't pass. And now she's not good. Okay. There were others who passed. I went from that place and I went to Mansell Gamage. And I was a test there. I arrived, got nothing, got no money, no nothing. And Dave, the good man who ran that community, a very, very, very great man, put me on the bed in his own yurt, took me in his own yurt and allowed me to sleep on the floor in his own yurt. And took me into his community eventually, and so on. Yet in the end, there was another guy there, the spiritual leader there, Lenny, his name was. He failed, so I had to go. Now he failed because he couldn't understand that I was more advanced and knew more than he did, and he was trying to teach me stuff that I already knew. And he didn't know that I already knew it because he wasn't operating at the higher level. Yeah. And so, unlike the lady that came and she saw that she wasn't a priest and I was a priest, she came under me, she understood me, she stood under me and allowed me to be what I was. Whereas Lenny, he wouldn't stand under me. You know, he thought I was some kind of low-level initiate. No. Oh, no. And so arrogance, pride and arrogance, these are the very qualities that you can't afford to have. And if two masters walk into the room together and talk to each other, they should know which one knows more than the other. They should just know that. And they should behave accordingly. Listen to each other. Take note. Now, in the Elysian fields, paradise lost its real place. It's not some place, imaginary place. It's real. It's here, or it's on every planet where life exists in the cosmos. It's somewhere in the cosmos, and it's here too. Nobody argues with anybody. Everything just is. There's justice in that place. And if there's not justice, it's not paradise. If there are people saying, don't do that, and you're all the elect, and there's people in there saying, don't do that to the elect, then they ain't elect. They're imposters. And those people need to be cast out of paradise. That's the job of manning the gate. The gate, the crossroads is the gate. It's the same thing. You have to pay the ferryman. When I was at Mansell Gamage Yurt community, they had a magic hat. And I never put anything in that magic hat, ever. Because that was their test. I was their test. I was expected to be supported by the world. At that level that I was at, the world had to support me. And I had some money that I wasn't using. It was just in, I think I had it, it was an exact figure, it was like £500, and it was my way out of England if England failed. And I had to return. And God told me that I had not to touch that, not to use it for anything. And then one day when I was at Mansell Gamage, God told me, now you need to go and buy all this stuff. Take the £500 and you're going to spend it. Now this is a big test for these other guys. So I went out and I had to buy certain things. I had to buy certain objects to give to gifts for other people. I had to get some new clothing to get my new objects of rank. I had to go and buy a whole lot of stuff, other people's objects of rank. And I bought some special blankets that I could cut into that people could wear, blankets that they could wear, white blankets. And I bought some other special orders for Lenny. I didn't know I was buying it for him, but I got a golden drum, And it was expensive. And he ended up at the same time finding and buying a big cowboy hat thing. Okay. And I also found a whole load of cameras, old cameras like this. I was going on a camera journey, yeah. And I had the idea to take these cameras and take them to London, where I knew they were more valuable, and sell them in London and use that money to do what the community needed to do next. What I need to do next in part of that community. I don't know why, what I did. But anyway, I went back to the community with all this stuff. The cameras, everything. I'm manning the crossroads. I don't even know I'm manning the crossroads this day, because this is like a group crossroads. Yeah, the whole group is being put through this. Will they talk about me? Will they say bad things about me? You know, there's all this kind of, like, it's a credible test. I'm only realizing it now, you know, as I'm making this video. That this was a crossroads, yeah, because I'm going back over it now. And it's many years ago, this. And so Lenny didn't like the fact that I'd spent all this money, hadn't put the money in the magic hat, you know. He thought I should have put the money in the magic hat and let them spend it, yeah. But then I wouldn't have been able to go and buy all this stuff, all these objects that they wouldn't know that these objects were needed. I needed to get these objects into the community. And I also needed to see, would they help me with this scheme to get these old cameras and recycle them into London and from the money, whatever we would do with it, I don't know. Would they help me to do this? Yeah, I don't know. It was like an idea for the community. Would they allow this idea to blossom and flower within the community, or had it got to be their idea? We're the leaders of this. We will have. You will do it. Is there equality? Is there freedom for God to flower in the garden that they were? It was almost paradise, almost, but it wasn't. It was almost, okay. And it wasn't paradise mainly because of these two main people that we created, the king and the high priest of the community. These two, Dave and Lenny, they were, because that's the hardest. They were the best people, but they were the hardest people. Those were the hardest positions to fill, for anybody to fill, and so they carried their greatest tests. And so Dave passed all his tests and he got his nice lady, but I do believe he probably lost that lady now. I don't know. It's very difficult once the divine couple forms, and there's super big tests, especially if you're living in a community with other people. And then he did some bad stuff with a young lady. I watched him, I witnessed him do it. And I brought the lady into the community. I met her on a pilgrimage. I made a pilgrimage to another community. I brought the lady back. I didn't bring her back, I just said I was going back, and she decided that she wanted to come. She came. The first night she was there, I put her up in my yurt, and I had my bed. She had her bed in the far corner there, just like me, and nothing happened. I didn't try to take advantage of the lady, nothing like that. It was just normal, okay. And the next day, Lenny got her into his yurt, and well, Lenny, he's a dark man, and he says things which sound really nice to the lady, love and all this sort of stuff, and oh, how beautiful the flowers are, and the birds and the bees and the trees, and oh, yeah, you're such a nice lady, and blah blah blah. Like, can't do that. Yeah. And so anyway, that's how he failed his test over a lady, and it wasn't long after that I left the community and was taken to the Utopia experiment. After going through that test, manning that Crossroads, I then had to go through a very powerful experience called the Lazarus experience, which is like you have to die for 3 days. And that's like you have to lie in soaking wet, like everything just soaking wet for 3 days of rain in the forest, soaking wet, and then find how you get out of that quandary. You just have to lie for 3 days and just take it. That's the Lazarus experience. Okay. I'm going to leave it at that. I don't think, there's many things I could say about it. Yeah, I don't want to make this too long. It's just to tell you about the Crossroad, to know that you're going to be put on this thing from time to time, especially if you're high level. And it's very hard to get through, except you're in the will of God. If you're in the will of God, it's just easy. It's just so easy. If you know what the will of God is and you're walking a great way, and it's not you, you're just responding to each of these tests as they come up to you. And whatever's coming out of you is coming out of you. You're not kind of like modifying what you do because you think, oh no, what would the people think, and oh, if I did that. If you're not doing all that stuff, you're just going through the will of God, you'll get through. But you'll lose communities, you'll lose friends, you'll lose everything, because those are the tests that God gives you to get to the highest level. And there's no way out except you do everything that I've done. You've got to do it. There's no other way out. Otherwise you just come back. Another life in this world. And believe you me, after World War III, it doesn't get easier. It gets harder. The world is no longer as nice a place as it once was. Look at what happened to Italy. Imagine what Italy was like when this guy, can't remember his name, but you know, he was a founder. Aeneas was a founder of Rome. He took the last. He had my job in Troy, and he took the Trojan War completely destroyed the Trojan civilization. He was taken out, and he went to Italy, and he was the basis. I think it was called Alba Longa, and that became in the end the Roman peoples came out of Alba Longa, which is the old name for Italy, I think, that one part of Italy. And so he had my job really, and it was the same with Brutus. Brutus came out of Alba Longa, I think. Alba Longa. 1000 BC. I think it was that. And he formed the Britain. Britain is named after Brutus. He went from Italy through the Pillars of Hercules through to found his way to Britain and developed the civilization that was based around the Thames and that beaker culture around the Thames and London. In pre-Roman days, 1000 BC. He also had to go through everything that I've gone through. And greater things must you all do. That's really the law of it. To get through. To be accepted into paradise once again. Not have to come back. Not have to come back into the fallen demonic world. That is the ultimate mystery. So, if you want that, you've got to do this. Okay. To man the crossroads. First you've got to go through the crossroads, then you've got to man the crossroads. And then you've got to go through the crossroads again. I'm going to tell you one thing before I go. And that is, I'll take 5. See the video chopped off just there. And when I stopped and moved across to the other chair, I looked out the window and there was the crossroads was being manned as I looked across, because there's 2 fighting factions in this area here, and there was 2 from the one faction and 1 from the other faction, and the 2 had slandered the one, and I said to them some time ago, they told me about this, and I said, look, you know, you have to make allowances for this lady, she's has certain qualities, and you know, you need to forgive and forget, move on. I wasn't going to indulge saying bad things or listening to bad things being said about anybody. I knew that they were wrong, and I was telling them that. I wasn't saying, oh, you're wrong, but I was just sort of saying, pointing out that she was not wrong, like they were saying. That's all. I wasn't saying they were wrong, I was saying she was not wrong. Now, if you say she's not wrong in a nice enough way, you can get away with it and not be like chucked out, not sort of thrown into, you don't take sides, you just say what the truth is here. And anyway, I looked out the window and there's some kind of, they're crossing over, she's going one way and they're the other, and they're talking. And in this moment I thought, yeah, it's interesting how it's to do with, have you learnt your lesson yet? Yeah, have you learned what was told? I told you once, I told you twice, I told you nice. So the first time you tell them nice, and then you didn't heed my advice. You know, it's kind of like, you know, the second time is, did you heed the advice? And so if you heeded the advice, if after a year, it's about a year or 2, there's a few that's going on over here. Now, did they heed the advice that I gave them? Did they forgive this lady and come into sort of back together again and not continue to make this feud to the death, if you like? And it reminded me of something, and I realised that I'd just been off the Crossroads with my brother. I have a brother, and I haven't seen my brother since last time I saw my brother was just when I entered this Yoke Farm community. I did actually meet him down there, and I met his wife, and his wife said some really, really bad stuff, and I had to correct her. I had to correct the lies that she was saying. You're not allowed to let somebody speak lies as if they're truth. You're not allowed to let them get away with that. You don't have to get upset about it. You've got to tell them what their error is. And she got most upset, and I just had to leave the house and walk out. Just into the night I had to walk like 30 miles to get back home, in the night. It's just something you have to do, okay? You can't, it's a test, you can't just let the lies be. And so, I hadn't seen my brother for probably the best part, nearly 20 years. This is nearly 20 years ago. And I was in the area, and I was doing my boat in the area near to where he was. And I hadn't gone to see him, and I actually passed him in the street, and I don't know if he recognised me or not. I don't think he did. And it was quite a surprising meeting, but I didn't say anything. I just walked right past him. I hadn't seen him for 20 years. And so I actually came into possession of a second boat. I had a boat, I was doing my boat, and I got a free boat, 99p, and I thought after I got this boat, I was just going back from the boat, I was going back to my boat in Bangor, and I had to pass by where my brother was living, and I couldn't remember how to get there or whatever. I had to find the place. This was so long ago, I've got no memory for this. And I actually found the house and knocked on the door, and he was there, and I said, "I'm your brother," yeah. And so instead of inviting me in, okay, now if you see your brother 20 years later after you had some kind of altercation with him, you've got 20 years to think about what he said. And if you haven't decided that what he said was right then, and if it was right, then you haven't stopped thinking about it, yeah. Because I had forgotten it. I'd completely stopped thinking about it because I was right. You don't think about anything that you don't need to learn from. You don't think about it. It's gone from your memory. It's finished. If you're thinking about something, resenting it or something, then you haven't processed it. You're in the wrong, and you need to still think about it to find out that you're in the wrong. And so, instead of inviting me into his house, which is the first thing, if he knocked on my door here, I wouldn't walk outside and talk to him in the street. I'd say, "Come in," yeah. He didn't. He put me into the outside, and we had to sit outside. And so I talked to him, and I said a few things to him. I said, "Have a boat. Do you need a boat? Do you need a boat?" Now, it shows that if he passed his lessons and everything, I would be giving him the boat that he could make the Jason journey, which means he's very close to getting out. Yeah. No, he doesn't want the boat. Now, he didn't even think twice about it. God puts in his head, he doesn't want the boat. Now, it's really, if God makes somebody go and say, "I think I should give you something," and they give you a boat, somebody like me who's on the way, and it's kind of like weird that you would say, you would turn God down. You know, God has decided to offer you a boat, and without even thinking about it, you just say no. But you know, these people have to. And so we talked some more, and then in the end I brought up, he brought up, the mosquitoes were biting him, and we were both sitting there, and the mosquitoes weren't biting me, they were biting him all over him. He said, "Oh, I've got to go, I've got to go inside, the mosquitoes are biting me." And it was like he had to say then that I couldn't come inside because his wife, what happened with his wife and all this. I said, "What?" I said to him, "What? You're still thinking about that after 20 years? So I said, "Anyway, I'm off here. I'll see you later. Bye." And I was just going to smile on my face. It didn't bother me at all, and off I went. And that was the end. And that was the crossroads, yeah. And I didn't even realise it was a crossroads at the time because I've stopped thinking about it really. And that would have been him. He didn't end up going on the Jason journey. He didn't get his higher level. He would have to go down again. He would have gone and talked about it with his wife, probably had a big argument or something, you know, because somehow it has to resolve. Yeah, somehow it has to resolve. You can't just not learn your lessons. you have to learn your lessons in the end, otherwise you just don't get through. It's as simple as that. So that's why the video stopped. Why I said I had to stop, because otherwise I wouldn't have seen that, and I wouldn't have told you this, and there was the last thing I had to say, and that's it. So you know all about the Crossroads now. Thanks for watching, and good luck on the way. Can just get your mind together and come on across to me. We'll hold hands and we'll watch the sunrise from the bottom of the sea. But first, are you experienced? Have you ever been experienced? Well, I am. Probably scream and cry that your little world won't let you go. Who in your these little world? Okay, you're trying to prove that you're made out of gold, and it can't be so. But first, are you experienced? I'm asking you now. Experienced. Can you get your mind together and come on across to me? We'll watch the sunrise together on the bottom of the sea. But first, are you experienced? Have you ever been experienced? I want you to know